TikTok is back in the app stores, at least for the next 70-ish days. We have Google and YouTube teaming up to give us more AI sludge we don't want. And apparently Meta torrents like a whole lot of other people when they can't find what they need. This is the Act 18 show. Hey, I'm Jason, faith-based entrepreneur and full-time digital nomad, coming to you from Tokyo. Oh my gosh. I almost said Kyoto. Tokyo. Anyway, timestamps and sources below. And no sponsor today, just a really cool, super awesome update. Of course, those are my words of something I've been working on that I really want to share with you. So first up, we have TikTok. Now, this is awesome because it's back in app stores. Now, they did allow people to download it directly if they had an Android device. Of course, Apple does not allow this. The term is called sideloading now, which I think is just dumb because it's covering up the fact that Apple just doesn't actually let you put software that it doesn't approve of on its devices. And yes, they actually did that with Mac OS as well. I don't know why that's not big news, but we'll move on. So essentially, the Attorney General came out and said, hey, Apple, Google, you're not going to be fined hundreds of millions of dollars if you allow TikTok back on your app stores while it tries to figure out a deal. Because obviously, there are a lot of senators that don't like current President Trump, and a lot of people as well. And so some of the senators who are against Trump and against this deal were essentially threatening Apple and Google, saying, hey, even though Trump has given TikTok some time to figure all this out, the penalties for allowing TikTok on your platform still stand. So TikTok was in this awkward place where, well, we're not completely banned, but then people are threatening the app stores, so the app stores won't let us on. So I don't know why it took so long, but at least the Attorney General came out and said, hey, Apple, Google, you can let TikTok back and we're not going to sue you and fine you for hundreds of millions of dollars. So all in all, I think this is a good thing. We've got 70-ish days to go for them to figure out a deal. And so hopefully they do, because I want a deal to pass, and then hopefully we can circle back around to the Supreme Court saying national security is more important than our freedom of speech and kind of squash that down. But unfortunately, either way, TikTok is a pretty big loser in this regard. Now, speaking of losers, we have Google AI. Terrible segue, but let's just do this. Now, Google has decided to give away its new version of its video AI tool generator if you want to create shorts. So they're calling it Veo 2, which is part of DeepMind, which is apparently different than Gemini. I seriously can't keep up with all these AI models. Between you and me, I just use GPT and Grok. Those seem to cover most of what I need done. But anyway, YouTube has come out and essentially shared this little short saying, hey, you can now use our AI model to add AI to live videos or create an entire video out of AI. I think this is nice as an accent. I, of course, would not use it because if you use it, then there's a watermark on your video and you can't use it on other platforms. The other weird thing, too, though, is I have yet to see an example of AI being used to actually accentuate a video like this example you're seeing here. I think it's funny, but it's only possible because of AI. And so the kind of joke is based around an AI feature as opposed to, hey, we had this awesome video idea, we were able to do it, and then we added AI to make it better. I'm not sure if I explained that right. That was the third time I tried, so I'll just leave it alone for now. But all in all, I think this is more just Google's trying to figure out how to justify the hundreds of millions of dollars they're spending on AI. And so if they can go to investors and say, hey, look, all these AI tools are helping content creators over on YouTube and they love it. And look at all these exciting things they're doing. Did you see that giant dog? I think that seems to be more of the push as to why you would do this, because I don't know, as a creator myself, I don't make a lot of short form content, but I look at this and I'm going, well, I'm just going to use Canva or something else because I have way more control over there. And for the most part, I think this is just going to encourage another wave of those stupid faceless channels where everyone's trying to make a quick buck making bottom feeder content. And it's just going to make it harder to find good stuff on YouTube. Now, speaking of finding it hard to get stuff, that was a terrible. I'm not doing good with segues today. Really not. Now, this next one is, I think, funny. So Meta, of course, is being sued, like a lot of other AI companies, for borrowing or using content that they may or may not had license for. So the whole crux of this is around the concept of fair use. But I think the problem here is that the way that Meta got the information, number one, you can't torrent stuff, right? That is technically, categorically illegal. And number two, the presence of using a computer to do that, even though it's the same thing a human would do, I think is what's got a lot of people upset. So it'll be very interesting to see how this goes, because we're getting to a point where it's become clear that if Meta had tried to go the legal route, we would still not have AI at all. This article details how they tried to reach out to publishers and get deals, and it just wasn't working. You couldn't find out who actually had the license to do what. And so while I understand why they went ahead and just torrented some stuff, I think it would have been much better if they had just bought a physical copy of, at least buy a physical copy of all the stuff that they're feeding to the AI. So at least they could be like, hey, here's our giant library of stuff. We just showed AI it and then it read it for us, right? I think that would have created a much stronger case. So I'll leave it at that. Now, speaking of Meta, they are also building a giant underwater system of cables to, of course, bring AI to other parts of the world. And of course, if you own your own cables, then it's a lot easier to optimize, your network for whatever AI you're delivering. And of course, if other AIs are being delivered across that same network, then maybe they're a little slower than yours. So all in all, I see this as a good thing. I just also wanted to include this story because I find it interesting that there are some opinions that believe that this type of innovation or building should be handled by a different entity or a different set of people. And so my question would be, because this seems to be really important to some people, if it's not a big U.S. tech company doing it and it's not the U.S. government doing it, then who? Because literally who is a great example of why giant national organizations don't actually wind up being all that helpful. I mean, look at how who responded in 2020. They were super transparent. They told us exactly what was going on, right? Or you have something like the EU where you talk to a lot of fishermen, they are not happy with some random bureaucrat across Europe telling them they can't fish in the waters they've been fishing in for 150 years. So I don't want to get too political, but as we go through using AI and regulations keep coming up, the question we have to keep asking is, okay, if not Zuckerberg making it, if not Elon making it, or Bezos making it, or Sam Altman making it, then who? And I think that is a really good question to ask. If you don't like those people, then who do you think should be in charge of it? Because we have a lot of examples of when it's handed over to a government entity or a government-like entity, things just wind up getting a whole lot worse. But I'll leave it there. Now, we have some cool updates from Threads. Apparently, you can now private signal that you don't like comments because, or I should say, Instagram. So over on Instagram, they're testing a feature where you can essentially private downvote a comment. It's kind of like YouTube taking away the dislike count. And I think this is all just part of Instagram trying its best to be like the happy, safe space for everyone where no one disagrees with anything and everything is all good. Yay! Except I think social media today pointed out, rightly so, that if this feature goes through, it's just going to be a way for people to massively downvote something to suppress things that they don't like. And for the most part, that's kind of how social media is supposed to work. So I'm a big fan of at least being able to see the negativity. Like if you comment on something and then your comment gets buried because it had 3,000 downvotes, I think the person posting should know that. Like 3,000 people genuinely thought it was dumb, or they disliked it, or they, had some issue with it. So I think this whole like secretive, you can downvote, but then like there's no public counter, is a recipe for like shadow blocking. Now, I quickly wanted to show you an awesome tool I've been working on in the background. I finished this at like 12:30 last night, and I was like, hey, I got to share it. So essentially what we're doing is we're going to be launching something called the Smart Content Kit in about 2 weeks. And as you can see with this kind of cut off Google Sheet here, it's just the format of this show. We have a really simple process to help you explain to AI how you write. And so we've really worked hard to make it like just drop down menus to explain your style. We even have places if you want to draw inspiration from others. We have very detailed examples of different types of styles when it comes to your tone, your narrative flow. We even get really detailed when it comes to lexicon as well. And you can just click, drop down whichever one makes the most sense to you. And as you can see here, we even have case studies of different influencers you may have heard of before. We have full-blown post examples, so you can see side by side how these would play out and which one you think is most close to your voice. And again, it's all drop-down menus here. You can type in if you want, but we work to make this as seamless as possible so you can quickly capture your voice and explain it to AI and stop getting AI sludge. And something that I'm really excited about, this is the last thing I finished last night, was this new feature that will allow you to essentially dial in your tone and your sentence structure and even how you want people to engage with your posts based upon the type of platform and content that you're creating. So no sponsor for today, but I just wanted to share that because I'm super excited to finally have this launched, hopefully by the end of February. So thank you so much for watching. Sincerely hope you got some value out of this episode. Hit that like button and subscribe for more. And until the next, keep building the business you love.